In this session, what we're going to go through is a little bit around how to select the right property in the area that you're searching for, because I see so many people just buying anything and buying an arbitrary number of property in that area, and they really don't understand what type of property that they're looking to purchase in that area, and understanding demographics and data and ensuring that they're buying a property that's fit for purpose. So look, in this session, we're going to go through a little bit about understanding the data in the area and why it's important to look at demographics before you go purchase just anything in a given area. This is a bell curve. It's, if anybody's done statistics in mathematics, it's the distribution of an item in a given area, and it helps you understand what proportion of those items are in that field, essentially. So say, for example, this is the median house price. So this is price, and then this is the count. So this is the number of properties at $0. So imagine a line here. This is the number of properties. Okay, this is the median for a given area, and this can be the top of the range, whatever that is. This is, okay. So let's say, for example, we're in an area and we're thinking about buying a property in the area. We want to understand what type of property is fit for purpose. Now, we're not going to go buying a car space or a studio apartment, because the number of those properties are very few, and we're not really catering to the overall demographic of the area. At the same time, we're not going to buy a mansion, or, we're not going to buy thousands, hundreds of acres of land unless we're planning on subdividing them. Essentially, we're looking for the majority of properties that sit inside this distribution here. Now, we want to see something that is within a certain range of the median price point. Now, if you don't know what the median price point is, it's the middle. So when you actually line up house prices in order of lowest to highest, the median is dead center, okay? That's this one here. And ideally, we want to stay as close to the median price point as possible. Just a rule of thumb, I'd buy within a certain range of the median price point as well. Now, you sort of say, well, what difference does it make if house prices go up? They go up in an area. Well, it's not exactly true. So we can see here, this is totality data showing the performance of different price points within capital cities around the area. And we can see in most cases that at the moment, it's the lower end of the market that is driving the majority of growth in the majority of capital cities, with a couple of exceptions. You can see Canberra, it's the middle and top. In Sydney, it's the middle and the lowest. In Melbourne, it's the middle. So in different areas, normally you see different price points. Now, we're in a bit of an affordability crunch. Therefore, it makes sense that the lower end of the market is driving the most growth, because we're looking for affordable housing in this era, okay? So previously, what we've seen in property booms is the opposite. We've seen the top end of the scale drive the most. If you think of going back to COVID days, we saw the top 25% leading the change, particularly in Sydney. We saw the eastern suburbs, northern suburbs, where the higher price points, they were leading the majority of the changes, the growth rather. So that being said, we saw growth primarily driven by the top end of the market. And what happened from there is it would cascade to the middle and the lower end of the market, because once people get priced out of a certain price point, they move to the next price point and the next price point and the next price point. And you see a bit of a chain reaction effect. What we're seeing here is the affordability crunch actually meaning that the lower end of the market, which is where the majority of people sit in the middle and lower end, are driving the most growth. So it's important to understand where the demographic of the market sits in that market that you're buying. And within that demographic, you need to then understand, well, who is going to buy my property? Who is the customer that's going to rent my property? And who is the customer that's going to buy my property when I eventually sell it down the track? And for that, it's important to understand the demographic of the area. So you can see here, this is the household size in Cairns for the regional area from ABS data in 2021. So what we can see here is that 27% of people are one-person households. So think studio, one-bedroom apartments, maybe two-bedroom apartments, maybe small one-bedroom villas, something along those lines. The next biggest demographic is two-person households. So maybe think one or two-bedroom apartments, maybe a two-bedroom villa, maybe a three-bedroom home, something along those lines. You might think a young couple, and then think three-person and four-person households. So overall, this demographic here, 3 and 4-person households, they represent about just under 30% of the market. The next biggest demographic are your two-person households. So for that, what we can do is we can see what type of house these people are actually living in. So we need to ensure that we're buying the right property for the right person. And then we can also see that studios are probably the next biggest demographic there. So overall, you need to think, well, what sort of dwelling am I buying? Now, Kansas is it's a fairly touristy area. There are a lot of backpackers. There are a lot of people that are coming in for short-term accommodation and seasonal work as well. So you need to sort of consider that within your target market. The next demographic that we need to consider is affordability. Now, we need to understand what people can actually afford based on their income. So you can see here, it's broken up. Household income in this area is broken up into quartiles. Much as the property prices were broken up, it was broken up into lowest, medium lowest, medium highest, and then highest. And you can see these quartiles are broken up into 0 to 850, 850 to 165, 1666 to 2791 and 2792 and over. So you can see the distribution of people that earn this sort of money. So we're at 25% here, we're at about 27% there, 26% there, and 22% of household incomes. So we need to understand, oh, okay, how many people can actually afford the property that I buy? So what we normally do is we use a benchmark of 30%, okay? And that 30% is the difference between your mortgage payments and your household income, okay? So that's how you break up that formula. In addition, we can look at, that's the mortgage affordability. Then we can look at the rental affordability. So imagine the rent divided by the household income. So we can push this a little bit more to 40% because when you're owning a home, there are a lot more expenses. There's maintenance and upkeep, and there's council rates, water rates, in some cases strata bills, okay? So you need to be able to cater for that within your cash flow. When you're renting, you're not really paying that. You're not paying that actually. So you don't need to account for as much in terms of affordability. Now, it's important that when you're renting it out to tenants, you need to ensure that they can rent it. You're not going to buy a McMansion because nobody's going to be able to rent it. Even though the rental value is there, you may need to look to lower the rent in order to get somebody to rent it out. And the same for house prices. If it's overvalued, okay, you're going to be paying more than that 30%. So that being said, you want to buy something that is under that affordability benchmark. So that's the long and the short of it, how to consider demographics and your end customer when you're looking to purchase property in a given area. Hope you guys have taken some value away from this. If you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to be able to do more of these as well. I find it fun to go through the data and scribble all over it and making sure you guys understand as well. If you want to learn more about purchasing an investment property, please don't hesitate to use the meeting link to book in some time with me for a complimentary initial strategy consultation. I'd love to be able to have a chat with you. Thanks again, guys. Have a great day.